everyone, and welcome to DIGFM December 2024. Um, and tonight's topic is a year in review, ghosts of past, present, and yet to come. If you saw the meetup, you'll see the great artwork from ChatGPT, and very cool. And some hidden references to Claris logos in there, if you look closely.
Jay did the prompt, right?
Yeah. Those represent Vince, Tony, Eric, and Bev. You just have to guess which ghost is which. Mine would look like Charlie Brown's ghost with a lot of too many holes in it, and I got a rock in my Halloween bag.
Mine is the oldest one.
I know what this is. In programming, there's three constructs: statements, conditionals, and loops. But with AI, we have what is it? Neural networks. And so it's statements, conditional loops, statements, loops, and what did I say?
Statements, conditionals, loops,
Neural networks.
and neural networks.
And conditional networks, yeah. And neural networks represented there. And I think the neural network is the blue one, or the green one on the far right.
Wait, you think it did that? Or if that was the prompt?
No, I'm just I'm like, one of those French art critics,
Oh, I see.
that je pense que c'est comme ça qui avait vu l'aspect créatif. So so there you go.
So you mean it's
You know-
not for horsemen?
Yeah. Yeah, forgot to supply the wine though.
Non, ça peut pas être les quatre horsemen. Okay, well, there you go. So I will start off with a quick announcement. Next month, we will have this familiar face coming to talk to our group. And some of you might recognize her.
We should see Claris, right?
Heather Winkle. She was responsible for the design surface in FileMaker 12, I believe. And I like to think of it, and her topic is below. 3 human AI. I don't even know how to pronounce that. The 3 most critical practices most companies are missing that will impact their ability to deliver meaningful solutions in the next chapter. And this talk is kind of significant in that it will kick off the next half of this decade and inspire us.
Now, how did we secure this speaker?
Yours truly.
Wow, man. How did you do that? Tell us your secret.
It's all in
it's
who
very-
you know.
It's just I asked.
Okay, good.
You ask often enough, and just get you off their back. I don't know. No, I was polite. I asked and invited her to speak, and she said, "I can't come in December, but January would be fine."
Oh, thanks, man.
And so so looking forward to having her come and share some of these insights that she has. I'll never forget. So for me, when Heather was there and she made these sweeping design changes, but to me, it was like when FileMaker 12 came out with the design surface changes, etc. It was like we left behind the dark ages and we got into like, the subtle age of subtlety, because it was just black and white. It felt like it was black and white. Like you couldn't get the subtlety that like the refinement of the user experience. And so anyway, it's very, very exciting. And I remember one story she shared which is something I often share in some of the talks I give. And she shared the story of when she was in architecture school and how that when you're in architecture school, you build a model to present, the building that you're going to build and all this. And she was so proud of it and everything. And she put it on the table and she was talking to her teacher about it. And her teacher, I know she probably does a better job of explaining it, but her teacher walked up to the model and smashed it.
Oh,
And it was like she's like stunned. And he said, never get attached to your first, the first iteration of something or whatever.
I,
And
I
and
remember
it
this story. Where did she tell this?
at some conference.
Was it
I don't,
DEGCOM?
maybe it was in Sweden or something when she did a tour one year. She did like
Nah, I
four
wasn't in
different,
Sweden.
yeah.
I
Well,
remember this story.
you remember it?
Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think sometimes I try and force myself whenever I design or trying to come up with a workflow or something. I take a piece of paper and I just pencil and paper and I just draw something and I just sketch it out and then I put it aside and then I say, okay, here's another approach and then here's another approach. And then, I pick one of them and I kind of refine it a little bit more and then eventually one of them will be the one that kind of moves forward. And
yeah.
and at some point, it gets knocked down and criticized, and then maybe it gets abandoned, and there's a different approach. But anyway, I always remember that story.
Very cool.
And then what I heard is that he smashed her design, and then she punched him in the face, and they said, "Don't get attached to your face." No, just kidding. I made that part up. She would
Yeah,
never do
okay.
that.
No.
She uses Omnigraphal, or at least I remember that was part of the presentation from the DEF CON stage. That's just
Oh,
a
yeah.
commercial.
Yeah.
I-
When I'm designing and I have a deadline, I try to get it done like well ahead of the deadline. And I say done. But then I know to put it away and let it gel in my mind when I'm doing other things. And I go back to it. And that's when I say, okay, I didn't love the first one, but I can build on it. And all the ideas come, after that initial it's done in my mind. But I've given myself enough time to get it done by the real deadline. So
Yep.
it always comes out better that way. If I work right up to the minute trying to get something, I know it's not going to be good. But if I set that deadline ahead or, back from when it needs to actually be delivered, then I can do that. It really helps. Cool.
A little cross promotion on this topic tomorrow. A little bit down the California coast at the what's it called? FM Disc, the LA meeting. John Howell is going to be talking about conventions, which is kind of designy. Like for FileMaker, how do you visually represent? I think that's going to be part of his thing. And then Nick Orr, kind of cheeky, he said he's going to explain to everybody why every convention that we have is wrong. Thought that was throwing down the gauntlet there.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of saying that the exception proves the rule.
Yeah.
So that you put a rule in place about what you're doing, and 9 times out of 10, when you find an exception, it will still prove the rule.
Should be a lively conversation here.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris Moore's dropping something in the chat here.
Yeah. So I had posted earlier a link to a ghost of my past, and let me pull it back up.
This is the FileMaker magazine.
Yeah. Let me share that. So this was when I was writing articles for Matt Petrowski and ISO, and look how old that 1999. But I think I was writing before that. And the file that came with it was for FP3, so it was really old. But that's when I think plugins first came along, because the two that I wrote about in here were the file plugins, the Troy file plugin, and then the one that Dave McKee did, I think, was the Toolbox plugin, and it allowed us to do a lot of the things that now are built in, and other plugins do even more than what these are. But so that was really, really, really a good ghost to when it was, they invented this connector to allow us to create the plugins, and they started coming out, and that file manipulation of external files was so wonderful that I thought it was a really, really good ghost. So I wrote about it.
Yeah, and Troy got in there early with that bread and butter plugin.
Yeah, yeah. They say Dave McKee wrote that one also. Did it was kind of like one of the first ones that was published. And then Troy took off with other plugins after that. And I think there's several other articles that I wrote after that one. When more plugins came along, that was kind of my job then, was to keep up on the articles and review, the new ones as they came along for a few years. And it was like one year at one of the dev cons, as a group, we had dinner together or something. So it was kind of neat to see the whole crew when we didn't really had met each other, before then, some of us. But Bob Cusick was working on that one as well. And then if nobody else has any ghosts, although I know quite a few, I thought we might want to talk about the just released.
Well, I think another thing is like if we had found anything that anybody's made use of in
Yeah.
the past 10 or 11 presentations, if there's anybody's like implemented anything, that's putting us on
Okay.
the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah. Bring up the YouTube of
Yeah.
the past year, and we'll go through that list. And
Let's see. Share.
There's while we're waiting for that, I'll share something really quick. So I got an email from the FM Disk group, this one right here. And I'm reading through this and I'm realizing like, oh man, that's really hard to parse and see what are all the speakers, right? So I put it into my where is it here? Where'd I put it? Oh yeah, it's here. So I put it into my handy dandy ChatGPT and asked it. Basically, I just copied this text and asked it, "Can you just tell me who the speakers are and what they're speaking, and turn it into something intelligent that I can
Wow.
cool.
easily." So yeah, I love AI when it works. It's so cool. And
It's
anyway.
crazy how chewed up that thing got in the emails. Was that
Yeah.
from MailChimp?
that I don't know where that's coming from. Let me see. My
I don't
email
think it was on
meetup.
the.
Was the
Yeah, I
meetup
don't
look
think
like
it
that?
was. Yeah, I don't think it was the meetup page. I think as it went
No.
out in
It-
email.
Yeah. This is an email. The meetup page is pretty good.
Oh,
The
okay.
meetup page is fine. It's just the email. But anyway.
Well, the question, did it go back to, did it find the site and go get it from there?
No. I just
Oh,
I
I couldn't
just
do that anyway.
I just copied this. I did this. I copied it. I sent it into ChatGPT. I said, "Can you just turn this into something that is easier to digest and break it down into who the speakers are and what their topics are into paragraph form?" But not only that, it did it in paragraph form, but it also bolded, like there was some
Yeah.
design aspect to this, right? It
Yeah.
bolded this part, and so it's really
Scary.
cool. And the last part too, your host Lynn Allen, right?
Mhm.
Like I copied from here all the way up to here, and basically it did this. Lynn Allen will host the virtual meeting, and I don't know where it got the ensuring the event runs smoothly and fostering engagement among participants. I don't
So
even
it
know.
added content.
Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe it found the meetup.
It found it somewhere in there. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But I thought
But,
ChatGPT didn't have access to current sites.
No. You have to, Eric. I did not get it to a site. I just copied the text.
I know, but somebody, I think Bev suggested maybe it
Oh,
grabbed it.
maybe. I think what she's suggesting, and maybe is that text is in here somewhere, and I should look for it. Fostering. See if I can find it.
Yeah. I don't think it's there.
I
And
think
Vincenzo,
sorry.
I
No,
was going to
it's not
say,
there.
you said you like it when AI works, right? And I'm going to say, I still like it when it trips, because it tells me what are the boundaries, right? And things like that. Like there's one time where I think I was asking for something along the lines of what you said, but my ask was to have like people sorted alphabetically,
Mhm.
and that it just would not do. It would just say, okay, in order of appearance, and here is what you get, so maybe I couldn't prompt it the right way, or maybe, but all in all, I'm still glad to know that it's not always like this magic wand thing, because magic wand things can make appear some nice stuff, and they also make other things disappear.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
So what are we looking at? Looking at our start at the beginning. What did we have in 2024? I guess we didn't have a January meeting, is that right?
How
Was
far
that-
back to how
No,
far
this is
back should we?
Kmart was January. Yeah, so I don't know. That still blows my mind. The how much you can do with WebDirect after it's been trashed so many times. Like somebody's like their whole company's based on doing everything in WebDirect. So
I never realized what works of art all these
Oh yeah.
yeah, what this would be all the pre-AI.
This group has got the best, or Eric's got the best post-production act in the FileMaker community. It makes a big difference. When you look at this back catalog and you're like, oh, what am I going to look at? It's effective.
Yeah. I don't even know what last year was it evolving from monoliths to distributed architecture.
Oh yeah.
So you can what was that? Space Odyssey? Let's see. So I don't know, any more observations? Anybody doing anything with WebDirect besides Kmart? No one took up the challenge and based their entire application on.
Actually,
Well, yeah. When I did WebDirect, I didn't take the FileMaker layout. I made the layout more web-like so that it was, clean and smooth and easy and fulfilled the function of working on the web. um, very efficiently, whereas a lot of times you have something that's really, really busy, but works great if you're on, local area network, but terrible when you get it into WebDirect. And so this was on a local network, but we use WebDirect, but it's still because it was through the web and the web metaphor that when I cleaned the layups and tidied them up for more web-like functionality and user experience, I think it really worked well.
Yeah. All I can say is the latest thing I used WebDirect for was so you know how you do the FMP links, right? And you send those to people and it'll open
Yeah,
up FileMaker and do it. So
yeah,
when we send that through Gmail, Gmail doesn't like FMP or anything that's not HTTP or FTP or any of the big ones, right?
right.
It doesn't like the what do you call those URLs? Uh, but those
Snapshot,
yeah,
Protocols.
yeah,
the snapshot.
right. So
Well,
yeah. Well, I like Snapshot, okay, but it doesn't like
it doesn't like FMP URLs,
right.
so you have to send it to a little microservice.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
in
you
fact,
do.
I posted a question about that on the community, and they gave me some ideas, and I thought, maybe I could just do this in WebDirect, right? And so that's what I did. I just created a little WebDirect, a little file that all it does is takes the entire argument you give it and creates the FMP URL instead, and then opens up FileMaker. So if I can give somebody an HTTP link that has the file name and the script and the parameters, and it will go ahead and execute all that inside of FileMaker, even though it's HTTPS. So that was
Cool.
the only thing I used WebDrive, and I thought, well, it'd be kind of slow, right? Because it's got to open up the whole, it's got to open up the WebDirect session and everything. But actually, when it was just an empty little file that it didn't have any tables, scripts, layouts, fields, nothing. It just had that script that converted the URL or the parameters. It opened up pretty fast and opened up FileMaker. I hardly
Cool.
noticed it was the difference in time, really.
Uh,
Uh,
I
it's
use WebDirect. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
I was
Kip?
just, I was going to say our whole teams in Asia were originally having me upload our FileMaker systems to box folders so they could download them and use the offline copies because client performance was so bad. And another team was going to have me do the same thing. And I was just, I don't want an entirely new nightly routine of doing that. Can we just try WebDirect first? And we had one of our people go out there on a test run, and I could communicate with them directly and connect with the teams. And you just open it up, and we spent about an hour going through and kind of tweaking a few checkboxes and coming up with a couple of predefined reports that they could do instead of the exporting or how to run the export feature on WebDirect. And the team over there was like, "This is great. I can use this anytime, anywhere."
Yeah.
It took about an hour of tweaking, and then the whole team in Asia was using that solution forever.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
So, and then there's the Inspector 8 presentation we had this year.
Oh, yeah.
Is there an 8.1 or is it that's still going strong as just 8 point whatever? What?
There's been a few updates, but we're actively working on a lot of things, and I'm planning to do a presentation in the spring of next year. So yeah,
Cool.
lots of really cool stuff. So
That was in March. I guess we skipped February because I guess Engage was in February.
yeah, yeah.
We didn't do an Engage review like we usually. We had an OpenAI in April when I was out there at the Grand Canyon. You guys are still here doing something on OpenAI, AI powered FileMaker developing. It was presented by Brian Jin.
Yeah, and you were like on a road trip and you were still participating. It
Yeah,
was wild.
I had
It
a
was wild.
laptop. Yeah, because somebody else
Yeah.
was driving, so I had a laptop in my lap, and I was cutting in and out in the Grand Canyon. So somehow you guys got it and got the whole recording anyway. So
Mm. Yeah,
uh,
I wonder what Brian is up to
uh, he's probably
now
been replaced
because
by AI now, right?
yeah, no.
No. Well, they're working on something, and he actually is part of the group that puts on the Kentuckiana group
Yeah.
for, user group meeting.
Uh-huh.
Doing a code review with Tony. That was good. I don't know if he has any more code review ideas for the future, but
I'd like to think that by putting myself in a dunce cap, I gave permission for some of the other code review presentations that followed. And by the way, just one quick note here on the FMP URL. I'm a huge fan. Another good group across the pond, England, Brighton, technically. I dropped a link to a presentation about how to use the FMP URL. But I had fun showing some code, got some good feedback.
I forget, was
I went-
FMP URL also in this code review? Did you discuss?
I didn't do that, but since we're being recorded, I came up with a feature that I hadn't seen before. Maybe it's out there to use FMP URL, which gives you indirection, and I use it in the help ticket system. So we have one particular, just take an example. We have a file system out there with 66 files currently. It used to be 120. So people make a help ticket, and from the help ticket, you click a button, and it runs the file name's there because we use get file name in the help ticket. The layout name is there. The layout ID is there. The record ID, it's all there. So when I get the help ticket, I just click a button that says FLR, which is file layout record. And it goes to the main menu and picks apart the thingamabopper, the FMP URL, picks it apart, opens the file because a FileMaker file can open a FileMaker file. And then it uses an FMP URL that calls a local file, a local script rather. A local script in each file's got the same script. And then it goes to the layout and it goes to the record. And anyway, that's like a teaser. If you want to watch the presentation that I gave to the friends across the pond, that's what I did. I forget what I did with the code review. I just showed a lot of code and tried to kick off lively conversations and had some fun. It was fun. What else happened this year?
JavaScript with Jeremy.
Jeremy's here.
Is he?
Yep.
He slipped in late.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe you can give us an update then. What's been happening since June?
What's been happening? Hey there, everyone.
Hi.
I don't know. I'm just taking this show on the road, trying to, talk about it in other instances. My method of working with JavaScript. Yeah, it seems to be going pretty well. I just started my 4th year of my business, and got about 400 members in the community.
Oh wow.
So that's great. It's most of them are not very active, but I try to post and give good advice about how to work with JavaScript and FileMaker. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know, just staying busy. Although I'll tell you, this year I have built more web apps than I've ever built in my entire life, and
wow.
I'm about to chuck FileMaker to the curb. It's so much better sometimes.
Try to get exactly what you need out of your application.
Yeah, just building a web app with a backend database, something that is, I'm using Supabase at the moment. I did a presentation on that at the Claris Beyond group, but I don't know, it was fine. But Supabase is a paid product, and although it's pretty cheap. So anyway, I'm enjoying writing web apps that connect to Supabase instead of FileMaker.
What's your favorite front end, Jeremy?
I use Next.js and Vercel and React 19, and yeah, I've got quite a few sites. So I don't know, not many people know this, but I'm going back to school to learn some new things, getting a new degree in hospitality, and I for 3 different projects I built 3 different websites. Like each of them took a day to put together, so it's a lot of fun to build websites nowadays.
So even though hospitality management, you're never going to get away from programming, though, I take it.
No, you don't think so? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. No, it's just a different way to serve people other than teaching. I've been teaching most of my life. Anyway, so JS and FM, it's going good. I'm staying busy, and people are learning how to use JavaScript, which is more important to me than really. I mean, it's very important to me. It's FileMaker developers using JavaScript. So
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about because Python is like on everybody's lips around here. It's like, I was trying to get in-house developer here, and so I was like, somebody was asking, I guess the supervisor was, hey, what would you like to learn? I said JavaScript. He wasn't excited about it. He was like, he wanted to, he was more interested in people learning Python around here only because there's, I don't know, I guess there's some application or something around here might use Python.
So I've traded troubles of working with FileMaker Server. I've had so many problems with FileMaker Server, not fetching data or crashing through the data API. It is FileMaker Server 18. So we're removing FileMaker from the equation. We're going to sync to Supabase, but FileMaker is just going to sit in a closet somewhere, and the few people who use it are going to use it and update data, but then all of that gets pushed to Supabase, and
you say that's
so
that you're on version 18?
That's part of the problem. It's not my call, but it's part of the problem.
Yeah, I had stability problems back in 18. 19 got a lot better, and all of a sudden 2021, I haven't seen any downtime this whole
That's
year.
good.
Yeah.
Well, they can't, my clients can't do it, so unfortunately they have to stay with 18 for various reasons. But anyway, that's what JavaScript is about, and more talking about it is good.
Oh, good. Let's see. We got that JSON query blew my mind. What was it? Was that a custom function? What was that? I forget.
Custom function.
It's a custom function.
Yeah, the custom function from on steroids. It was a one function that did like it was a whole application in itself.
Steve Senfit Herrera.
Yep.
Yeah. Trying to find the link to it.
Yeah. Please share those.
And there was a 2.0 presentation on JSON query.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there was?
Your colleagues once in LA, I think it was maybe 3 months ago.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steve did it in FM Disk, I think.
Yeah, feel free to put all that stuff in the chat.
I'll try and find it. It's hard to locate past presentations without the visuals over there. Yeah. Oh, damn, we're being recorded.
Yeah. That's swearing. Let's see. So we got, so we did AI again just a few months ago with Chris Ippolite. Beyond semantic search, just ways to leverage your solutions.
That was good. He had like 5 different real world use cases.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good to get you hook you in. I guess he's dressed up as a Borg there, so yeah, to assimilate you into AI. And then he was the part of the talk that had me interested was the what was that called? The Aristotle or the
Aristotle.
Oh, yeah.
Aristotle, that's right. And how's that going?
I haven't heard much lately. Not sure.
Problem is, they needed a server. And I guess figuring out who was going to host that. But yeah, what the idea was to feed in FileMaker solutions and things like or FileMaker help and all kinds of stuff so that it could help you develop, right?
Chris was going to take his content and and I guess Claris was going to do some to build the LLM, the large language model or whatever.
Right.
Because that's my understanding of how AI works is you take a huge amount of historical content and the more the better, and then you algorithmically traverse it. So Chris has got a lot of FileMaker content from doing all the I don't know what's it called these days, LinkedIn trainings.
Training videos, yeah.
Yeah, because semantic search out of FileMakers, I have limited uses for that, but I could always use an intern or whatever, AI intern to help me develop and get some things done. So, yeah.
We talked a little bit about this other day. Chris Moyer, this was it came up in the presentation. Oh, well, not recorded, but anyway, there was talk about what you would need to do to facilitate AI's ability to understand FileMaker. You'd probably have to sort of feed it quality language model. You'd have to build up and that's, I guess, what Aristotle is planning on doing.
Right.
And then after that, September, we had Alexis Allen, a long overdue presentation on design. We hadn't had a design presentation for years, and she brought it in for us. And that was good.
And we all agreed.
Yeah. And then the ultimate blast from the past was just from one of our retiring developers, Dennis Burnham.
Oh yeah.
That was an amazing presentation.
Yeah, you want a history of computer science and where FileMaker falls within all that. It was right there. And then you have a lot of tips and tricks and ways he likes to say things inside of FileMaker. So that was all good. How long was that one? That was 2.5 hours.
I mean, he could have gone on for longer. It was just like,
oh yeah,
such an interesting journey of his life, his experience, how he got into the field, what he did. I mean, it was really well done. It was really
when he opened up he was sharing his screen. I saw this number on there, and I said, "What's that 3-digit number?" And oh, that's the number of slides you have for the presentation.
Oh gosh.
I think he started with punch cards, I think.
Yes. That's how far back you go. Oh,
wow.
Pens. And also the pen industry, but yeah, the ballpoint pen and things like that.
Promotional material industry and the associated technology. There was like a hardware software combo presentation.
Yeah. How it all applies. That was good. And then last month we finally had David Head start making sense, and that so yes, he gave us a pretty good wrap up on you want your code and your development to start making sense. He presented things the way that he thinks it ought to be. It was kind of it wasn't really like a standards presentation like Matt Petrowski, but it was he put things together. So yeah, giving you some standard ways to think about things when you're developing anyway.
Yeah, he referenced the book Code Complete, which last I checked was the #1 rated programming book.
Wow, still.
Well, I don't know if it would change. I don't know. Probably because there's not many books coming out these days. So it might hold that title for a while. And then, yeah, it was a really good presentation, both in terms of what he put out there and also the way that he put it out, which was like, what was his phrase? Strong beliefs, but I'm willing to change my mind. He had a more pithy way of saying it.
Yeah. Well,
maybe someone else remembers.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact thing, but I remember that mention of it. Yeah.
So he was open for discussion. Is like, this is what I think. What do you all think? Which is a good way to approach opinions. It was a good show.
All right. What was so we're going to talk about 21.1?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we've got people that got things that are really, we're excited about or had further questions about or so then
I would. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vince.
No, go ahead, Tony.
Well, I was going to say, I would broaden it out to in the year, was there a feature that was like maybe shifted in 2023 that you got around to implementing in 2024? And I'll talk about one that I haven't fully implemented. It takes me a while to implement a new feature because I want to kind of get it right, or at least partly right. One of the things I was looking at, and maybe others have an opinion on this as well, was the feature, and this is from memory, I think it was 19.6.1, transactions, and the ability to trap a delete just before it occurs. Lion had a good blog. I think Beeswax, I'm going to guess, probably had a good blog on this. There was a bunch of blogs, but just the idea, let's put it this way. Go back 10 years in your mind and think about a customer calling you and saying, hey, I accidentally deleted a record. Think how you would trap, don't delete records. It got easier as of 19.6.1, I think, because it's kind of like they give you the ability to capture an event before it gets deleted. Anyway, I thought that was a cool feature that shipped, I guess, not this year, but last year. I shouldn't say it out loud because we're being recorded. I don't have a complete implementation on that. But I thought that was a terrific feature.
Are you just referring to transactions in general? Or are you
I'll go find a link. It's the ability, so the user clicks a delete button, right? Delete this record.
Uh-huh.
The ability to capture that deletion event, and I might be able to find an infographic on this, that work in progress infographic over here. The ability to say, oh, you're deleting, let me capture the JSON, let me capture the metadata that they give you for free. And they give you a field that you reference where you can build a JSON object.
On window transaction.
Yeah, that's the one. And then you pipe it out to an external file. General best practice for logging, in my opinion, because not that a file's ever gotten corrupted, but it could. And you send the delete out, and that's and then the details would be how would you code that specifically, and how would you standardize it. And Vince, that makes sense, right? I think you named it. I didn't name it by name.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. And I'm posting
awesome.
The post about it that Alec did, and very, very interesting blog post.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, not to disrespect anyone else, but there was that was, put it this way, that was one of the posts that was worthy of being read. And I won't name which others. But anyway, I thought that was cool. So that's my...
Cool. Is a small thing? I feel like there was a small thing in 21, but I thought it was 21.1, I think, or 21. It was like a small thing, but I thought it was really nice that we finally... Oh yeah. That's right. How many of you remember the days of Matt Petrovsky coming out with some code? What is it? Oh my God, what is it called? Like, those editors, Res Edit. Remember that?
Yeah.
And Matt came out with this patch that would let you make like there were larger and larger screens, but FileMaker had this like tiny, tiny screen, and he came out with this patch that made the defined database window huge, the calculation dialog huge, and everybody used it. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you could
But
edit the nib files, right?
yeah,
NIDs.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know why it took them so long, but eventually in 21.1, we finally got the ability to resize the field column names and the layout names. And then when you would close the dialog, now in 21.1, they stick. Like, so if
Yeah.
you open up the define database window and you have like really long field names, you always like the first thing I would do is like, okay, let me resize it so I can see all my field names, But now finally they got it to stick. And I thought like, oh my God, that's you know, I don't know. It should have been done a long time ago. But that was definitely a quality of life improvement.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. And it's one of those things where like sometimes you just wish that the engineers would sit and actually use the program, and then they get so frustrated with well,
Yeah.
you're kidding me, like
Yeah.
that doesn't work like that. Okay, I have ways to fix that, and they go ahead and they fix it,
Yeah.
and then we finally now have the ability to run PSOS on server. How
Oh,
many
yeah.
of you finding uses of that?
Yeah, I wish it had always been that way.
Yeah, but I mean, is anybody using it?
Seems to be spawning some good error messages.
Yeah, there's some chitter chatter on the community that I haven't used yet. I like robots for that kind of stuff when possible. Easier to troubleshoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was one of the community ideas that somebody wished that the perform script, it was just like a unified script that where the option to run it on the server was like a calculated, result. So you could actually, based on like where it's running, you could decide whether this is going to just run as a normal script or run on server.
Right.
And I don't know, to me that kind of made sense because you didn't have to.
Don't we have that? I mean, isn't that sort of a standard? If PSOS, if you're running on a server, run at PSOS. If you're not on a server,
Yeah, but it's a bunch of if statements, right? Or if steps, right? Or it could have just been a flag or something in perform script. And then now you have to maintain.
Well, are you saying that the way it's written, you have to kind of call yourself again, but call yourself so that you're running on server, and then in the script, you know that now you're on server, so you bypass that part of the script and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to?
Something like that. Yeah,
Um,
it's just like it's sometimes you'd like it just to run
uh-huh.
wherever you happen to be. So without having to add a lot of conditional statements to figure out where you are and what it's going to do next.
Yeah. Yep.
Did anybody tested the execute SQL E?
I think I've been waiting for that function for at least 7 years.
Oh yeah. It's beautiful. I love it. It still is like if you make a typo, it does, it'll still say something about, it won't run or there's an error in the syntax, and it doesn't really correct the syntax. Now, if you have a wrong field name or you have a function that you've called that is not valid for this version of the sequel, then it'll tell you that. But otherwise, if you got something not quite right on your query, you still may get that little cryptic message saying there's an error in your syntax, and you go like, okay. So I got to figure it out, but at least you get a message and not just that old question mark. Which
I know, and I'm just like, what? Did the number not fit in the field? What happened?
Yeah, yeah. Hey David, we're doing a review of the past DIGFM, and your name come up as one of the really good presentations we've had this year. So we thought maybe
thank
you know your ears were burning and you showed up because we were talking about you.
Thank you very much.
So we're kind of going over, the ghosts of past and present and future, and so we're talking about some of our favorite things and some of our past things that have occurred, and kind of speaking a little bit of future, but also the past. At the Claris Engage in March next year, there's going to be an entire room that they're going to call the museum, and it's going to have things like some of the old boxes and maybe some of the old magazines and
Wow.
badges of badges from the past DevCons.
Wait, who's setting all that up?
It's going to be a timeline on a kind of like a horseshoe table, and then there are items that are going to be on it. And then we've got a screen, a great big huge screen that's going to be playing. Julie is set up a committee, and it's Clay, Steve Dolinsky, and I are kind of setting it up. We're going to have a Claris Studio form to fill out if you want to submit something. We'll be announcing that in the next week or so.
Is it submitting something digitally or bring something physical?
We're going to leave. Okay. Yeah, we're going to leave that as an option of somebody that wants to bring something and something digitally if they want.
Can you get a Mac Plus running FileMaker 2 or something?
I don't know. It depends on what Clay's got there.
Yeah.
He's not far from Austin.
I think some of the people who came in about version 16 would be pretty horrified to see FileMaker 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they could show FileMaker 1 running.
Oh, Clay has that on a machine. I remember one year. I remember one year he brought oh my God, some MacBook PowerBook, and he booted it up and showed really, really old versions of FileMaker. That I don't know if he could boot them or run them.
Maybe an emulator or something.
Emulator, yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were our blasts from the past. Now I guess we were just started talking about 21.1, was it?
Yeah.
Was that all the features already?
I saw a feature, the next one on the list after the execute, the thing that ended with an E, to get this, how much space do I have back on the boot drive? That's a winner. Make sure your database doesn't chew up the boot drive and crash. I say that's a good job. Good function, guys and gals over there at Claris.
Get system storage available.
Yeah, that one's a good one. I mean, get doc would be nice. Get doc specs. What else do I always lobby for? Get doc specs. Oh, and get sort order. That would be useful. Get the sort stack.
That's in there? Oh, who was sharing?
No, I'm just saying that would be good.
Oh.
Someone was sharing the list earlier?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. You want me to share it again?
Yeah, please.
Sure, why not? We don't want to leave anything on the table. They worked hard on these things.
And we waited a long time for them.
Okay.
I could
Just
say we
the
worked hard
AI
not having
steps
these
were
some of these
just kind of, the AI steps were really just kind of enhancements of what we had gotten with 21. But it was good. It's good enhancements. Open Quickly, they made some improvements where
Yeah,
people were
that looks like
complaining about it.
How
that's
many,
getting good reviews.
how
No,
many of you use Open Quickly every day?
I
Yeah.
I was, but it started getting slow for me.
Hmm.
Really?
And then the other issue I have is because sometimes I have a development copy up and a production copy of the same file up,
Yeah.
and it doesn't differentiate between the two. So I don't like it'll show both
Okay.
unless you tell it to, I guess, look at just this file only. But yeah, so it'll bring both, and it doesn't give you anything to differentiate between the different servers that it might be on.
The host or
Yeah. So like
yeah.
up in your top of your window, it'll say like what the host name is,
Hmm.
and usually in your window. But the on Open Quickly, it doesn't tell you what server it's on. It just tells you the file name and the like what object you're trying to get to.
So that's a good feature. And that's com getting better and better.
Yeah, I could say they really improved it for the 21.1.
I'm just going to speak. Oh,
Sure.
sorry, guys. I just came off mic and I didn't realize. Quick question, Eric. Are you running multiple versions of FileMaker when you're trying to switch between the layouts with the Open Quickly?
No, no. I think well, our server is
Are you Mac or PC first?
Mac most
Okay,
of the
so
time, but
and do you,
sometimes Windows. Yeah.
yeah, but when you're running on a Mac, do you have more than one copy of FileMaker running at a time and then having live in one environment and test in the other?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't done that.
Yeah,
Although,
I tend to do that more. Just it separates them as environments more. I don't believe that global variables move between the two applications, but I could be wrong there, and that might help you with switching between the environments with the quick layout open as well to
yeah, this is
follow
the case
the
where
logic.
I'm like opening two different files on from two different servers. One's development, one's production.
Yep.
And then yeah, the Open Quickly doesn't tell you what server it's coming from it'll show both files, and you kind of have to flip heads or tails which one you're going to pick if you're using that.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
good
just wondering.
feedback.
Yeah.
There is that button to show the current file only. Surely.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool button that just limits whatever you're seeing there to whatever file you're working in. I think, isn't that what you want?
Kind of, except they're multi-file solutions, so sometimes I might want to be able to access the items that are in other files that are part of that multi-file solution on production or on server
Yeah.
or on development. So, but yeah, that's kind of what it. Yes, I've been using that solution just to kind of, if I'm doing everything in one file, then yeah, I'll do that.
In that case, I'd probably defer to Darren's solution. I've done that quite a bit to have 20 and 21 open concurrently and have the dev version in one version of FileMaker and the live version in the other version of FileMaker. And that's been particularly useful to be able to have the managed database dialog open at the same time in both files and see what's going on.
Speaking of multiple versions open, a couple of our power users, they do some things that take a while. They run a long time, and they haven't been moved over to something like Perform Script on server. And so the past solution for that was just to have two different versions of FileMaker available on their computer, and they could like sit there and run a job off of one and on the other one, and they would just go about their normal business and doing their work. That hasn't been working as well lately, having the two different versions open in Windows. So I don't know if anybody else has encountered any issues with version 20 and 21.
Well, because one version seems to be interfering with the other.
Yeah, has anybody else seen that?
I have not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have not.
that was not a problem with us when between 18 and 19 and 19 and 20, but since 20 and 21 it's little weird things. Like one will make the other one glitch and you can't keep hands on one while the other one's doing something. It's kind of weird. So
Well, the price of computers has been coming down.
you get yourself a second computer.
Yeah, I mean, I had a customer or I have a customer who frequently had like, big processes to run like 400,000 digital assets. So two computers. I was looking at Mac Mini prices and I was like, whoa, those are cheap compared to what they used to be.
Yeah,
We're
the other
also
way.
looking at, sorry, Prince.
I
You
was
go
just
ahead,
going to
Vince.
say the other way that I use multiple copies of Pro is basically I rename the different copies that I have, and sometimes I have 3 or 4 of them. And one is like going to be named the privilege set of the system I log in with. So like manager, admin, user, vendor, whatever. And then when I command tab to the other copy, I know exactly which
Oh,
application,
that's clever.
which
Yeah.
which user I'm in as. So because otherwise, if they're all called FileMaker
Right.
and and the screens are the same, I was like, I don't remember how I logged into this one and
Yeah.
Clever.
whatever.
Now
So
that's on a Mac, right?
that's on a Mac, yeah.
I don't know if that would work on Windows or not.
Just buy a Mac.
Unfortunately, no. Just buy a Mac.
Nothing works on
Well,
Windows.
I have a Mac, but most of my customers are on Windows, so
You have to. So
Yeah.
you should have two. Have a Mac and a Windows.
Yeah, I
And
do.
then you have other versions of FileMaker to run your DDR software as well to keep them separate from the apps. And there are times that we'll have a remote desktop client when you do need to jump into Windows and see what that's doing and run the process over on the remote desktop. And we're even investigating setting up a WebDirect client when someone needs a second machine as well. So it's that discussion before about, who's going to jump into WebDirect. Well, we've got a few clients that don't want to go to the cost of setting up a remote desktop server, but would rather have their users in a limited capacity logging in through WebDirect. And now that the server can handle a lot more users, it's becoming viable.
Just on the subject of the open quickly, I'm just having a look at it at the moment, and the if I go into open quickly and I type in a couple of things, the first thing that comes up is a whole bunch of files. Now, why does that come up there? Why would I want to open quickly and see all of the files that I can possibly get access to? They're coming from I think it comes from the recent files list.
Recents, yeah.
Yeah, but because I've got so many recent files, why would I want to see all of that stuff? And B, why can't I collapse that? So I've got files, scripts, tables, fields, and table occurrences.
Right.
So if I'm looking for table occurrences, I always have to scroll right down the bottom, or if I'm looking for scripts, I have to scroll to somewhere in the middle. So why can't you collapse that each of those categories, or have them collapsed in the first place, and I just go and open up the thing that I actually want to open quickly? Because if I want to open quickly a script, it's never going to be at the top of the list.
Fair questions.
So was it Vince? You said you use it every day?
Pardon me?
Did you say that you use Open Quickly every day?
Yeah, I use it very often. And so the way I use it is
massive file list at the top.
I mean, I pretty much type enough so that I can zero into what I'm looking for. And usually it's like we have this way of defining like a data layout, layout that is just a layout with nothing on it, and then a scratch layout that has all the fields on it. So like we have a very specific naming convention for the scratch layouts, and so we'll type 3 characters, and it's like I can pretty much zero in on exactly what I'm looking for. Then I hold the option key down and I choose it, and now I have a window for that specific layout. And yeah, so it's very very convenient. That
Okay.
It's unfortunate you got to change your layout names to work within a function
Right.
that would just have that little bit of change to it, and it would work a whole lot better. So, is there a feature request on that one that you put through, Vince, or any new one?
No, what kind of feature request?
I don't think they take feature requests anymore, do they?
I'm extending out the
Yeah,
quick
just
find.
just post it to the community and say, until we get the feature request back, here's what I'd like.
I think there's an email that you're supposed to send to now.
Yeah.
Hey, for what it's worth, one of the FileMaker people was on a Zoom call, one of these meetings, and for what it's worth, not much, is I suggested they make the Open Quickly interface similar to the thing that's under tools. I think, run the DDR. When you run the DDR, you can check boxes, select the different types of FileMaker code objects that you care about. Maybe it's table occurrences one day, maybe it's layouts another, and use that as a filter by object. So anyway, I put in a verbal feature request because that was easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
What other, there was some other stuff, some script steps we got here?
Yeah.
Sequoia, okay.
That set revert transaction on error script step we were talking about. Some enhancements to some scripts.
This is a crowd pleaser. This is people have asked, like, your defaults make no sense.
Right.
So that's good. People asked, and there it is.
Yeah. Like, why do I have to turn that off every time or on?
Right. Oh, they'll find something else to complain about.
Yeah. The execute FileMaker data API allows you to prohibit modification during the data entry when you're using that.
It supports overriding the prohibit modification. Okay.
Changing the save a copy as XML to allow you to make a check on when you're saving in the file to include the DDR info, and it's still not there as far as I'm concerned. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done on that part to make it a better set of data for the analysis tool.
Yeah.
So we keep putting in requests to kind of clean that up some more.
Yeah. The main thing with that is if you have calculations, and calculations like will refer to fields and functions and custom functions, etc. All the components that make up the calculation, all those things are output in a part or in a section that is labeled with chunks. Those elements are called chunks, and all those chunks are not needed for other consumers of the XML, potentially like the add-on tool or the upgrade tool or whatever other consumers. They just need the calculation. They don't need the chunks. So, and in an effort to maybe make happy all the different consumers, they added this little checkbox that's called, what does it say? It says, include details for analysis tools or something like that. And when you check that checkbox, then you'll get another section in the DDR that outputs calculation chunks and script step text. And so there's two sections to it. And so the chunks are moved over there. And at the last minute, when we looked a lot closer to this, we found that they were outputting malformed XML. And then they scrambled and they ended up fixing it just in time, just before the release. But yeah, so there's been some back and forth about maybe how to optimize what goes out there. And anyway, I have my opinions about it, but I don't know. There's still no work on it that I can see that has happened. So I'm hoping they pour some effort into it. So
I agree. It's not there.
yeah.
It's not what we want yet. Um,
The-
live text enhancements. Um, the layout calculations, if you change the name of the field, then it updates in the layout calculation. The default theme, can we get applause? Yay!
Yay.
What is that again?
Okay, so when you create a new file, you get the default theme, which is that god awful Apex Blue.
Oh man.
We could kill it, you can remove it. But what you can do is once you start a new file and you choose a different theme, a custom theme, or alter one of the other themes that you like, and make custom, you can go to that dialog box with the themes, underneath the manage, then you manage themes. Then you can check a box that says, this is going to be my default theme. So after that, each new layout that you create will use whatever that default theme is.
In all your files or for the whole application or
no, just for the it's per file.
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Again, if you've got a theme that you've created, it's more or less you're probably using it as a template to start each new next file in your solution. So that would be it. But you want to make sure that that's checked as being the default theme, so that each new layout after that uses that theme. And so, yes, love it, love it, love it.
Curious.
You can delete themes you don't use any, that were put in there. There's the one with the delete the classic theme, but you got to be really careful if you're going to do that based on
a legacy.
Yeah, the legacy stuff that might be in there. So
there was some chatter on. Sorry, someone else want to go?
Does table view still require classic?
No.
Okay. Yeah. And I was curious, what happened to all the other themes that used to come bundled with FileMaker? Looks like so many of them vanished.
Yeah.
You only really need one and to build on, and then you build your own.
Yeah.
If you have a design sensibility, or if you have a design that you've been using historically, then you're going to want to have a custom to have continuity across upgrades. At least that's what we did. We had, a visual look. It was what it was, and it was not bad. And then when we went from 11 to 12, that's when the themes began to come in, 12, 13. So the game was to, migrate from a visual look that was on classic to a visual look that had some theme underneath it that was easy to work with. That's something else, but I forgot what else I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, like when I did web and FileMaker at the same time, like the website trying to use that theme and within FileMaker was a little difficult. So you kind of hack together pieces of, pictures and things like that and screenshots so that your look and you would match the colors as closely as you could, and that really helped. And so then you create a theme. I've seen on Marketplace where people are advertising that they have themes you can. Some of them might be free, but some of them are also for purchase, which is kind of neat. Some really nice themes. So something you can share, create for somebody and share it.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a great idea. Is that our themes part of Claris's marketplace or?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can put them in there. If you're a partner, you can post to the marketplace. And so you've got themes that you've designed and you like it. And, then you package it up in a demo file that you can post and, show screenshots of what it looks like. And if they purchase it, then they download it, however you set up for the purchase.
I don't think anyone's going to get rich doing that. Although I
No,
think
no.
Matt Petrowski, with his magazine and his design chops, probably was able to sell some. I think he had something for sale, but I don't know how many he sold.
Yeah. Well, the original themes were way back in 5.5 and 6, and we had Theme Creator, which we had a whole bunch of Pantone colors that we had made as little gifts that you could use, and you could pick from the palette, and so then your layout parts could be colors, and it was a lot more limited in what could be themed, but it was really kind of interesting to do. And then Matt came up with a version for however he did it. But I've seen other people come up. Chiyoko is doing one or has one that she's going to try to release, I think.
I thought she was.
Yeah.
I thought she was working with Matt.
No, she might be now. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen one. Ernest Co. Has one, I think, up on Marketplace,
Mhm.
or I've just seen it on their site, which is a really nice theme. And
I think
and you think
Alexis
of
has
it,
one too.
she probably does, and that's it. Is if how many hours
Just,
would
just
it
wait till
cost you to create a theme? And we're talking about everything, the shading of the parts and the fonts on the different objects and things, and it takes quite a bit of work. So if this is for purchase, then you go like, oh, I like it, I'm going to use it. Or maybe you purchase it in, if you have the rights to, duplicate it and then revise slightly, because you need a different shade of blue than what's in the theme, but otherwise it's mostly there. It would save you a lot of time to do that. So I thought that was a pretty good idea. But
So
again, you can create the default setting in your file, and then each new layout uses that theme.
the one of the challenging things, and we did something yesterday that was interesting. It's the affordances in terms of, and this is, I'd be curious if other people have different opinions on this. We have, for instance, fields that are locked,
Yeah.
and we gray them out because they're locked, and that sort of don't go there. It's gray, right? That seems intuitive to me. What do I know? We did something a little bit interesting. We have a feature that we implement a lot, which is locking a record. It's blogged and documented by multiple people. It's the basic idea. You have a field called locked, you click it, and then the field validation locks it. The problem is well, here's the solution. We put conditional formatting on the fields that are data entry fields. By the way, data entry fields are white background. Calculations are gray, to tell you what you can edit and what you cannot edit to avoid frustration or minimize frustration. So, but if the record is locked, we take the fields that have a white background and we use conditional formatting pointing towards the field called locked to gray them out. We deployed that for a customer yesterday and they seemed willing to accept that as a visual implementation.
Yeah.
So that made sense, right?
Oh, yeah.
they can still go into the grayed out field and try to edit it and get an error message if they want. But hey, it's a start. What else we got here?
Okay.
Oh, the
Oh,
options for field
display.
out.
Yeah, the display custom message now can be a calculation.
That's
If
really
you're doing for
timely.
validation of field of a defined field. It can be a
It can be a
case
calculation.
statement based on whatever you want it to show for a particular user or whatever.
Can
Which
it
I think is pretty
be
cool.
if you've got an error where there's multiple? It used to be like a validation fails. It could fail for one of three reasons, and so the error mess. Right. So maybe this fixes that. That'd be awesome. Good job, everybody, if that's what they did.
Yeah.
Wow. I think I remember developers asking for this back in FileMaker 5.
Probably.
All right. Well, they should upgrade.
Yes.
Now's the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Don't
you're
miss
still
your
there.
chance.
If
Don't
you're
miss
still
your
there.
chance. Yeah.
It's just for you. So that's good. Good feature.
Oh yeah. Okay. External stored container fields. Fewer folders, and I don't know the details on that. I didn't test that at all.
It used to be the case that the secure data folders basically broke themselves down to basically 1 byte folders. So the UUID is a whole series of bytes, and it broke itself down to 1 byte folders. So to actually find a file, it would be 12, 10 folders deep, whatever that is. Now it only breaks it down to probably maybe 3 folders, something like that.
Oh, cool.
So it's a much more efficient folder structure.
Yeah.
Cool.
If a file authorizes specific external file access, you can now require that it be on the same host, which I thought was a pretty good idea too.
No cross-site scripting.
Yeah, well, no cross-server scripting.
I don't know. I
Be the
heard somebody
same
using
host.
multiple servers though for a solution. I don't know why they did that.
Well, they could have more than 125 files. Could be a big operation. Or 250, whatever the limit is these days.
Yeah, but we'd have to look at the details, but same host might mean that you have more than one server, but it's not a server in Tokyo and a server in, Miami kind of thing. I don't know. Again, you have to look it up if you want to.
It looks like a swell feature.
Yeah.
Oh, column widths are saved. This is what Vince was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Look how many they fixed.
Mm-hmm. You can now import the XSL and XSLT file name extensions, which, we've got the file plugins and you can read a file that I don't know that we needed for import, but it's nice. It works. I tried it.
I'll take it.
Table
occurrence.
The current table occurrence is deleted. The managed layouts dialog now shows unknown, which I guess is an improvement. Yeah, that was the DDR info we were talking about earlier.
Just tell you it was deleted.
Yeah. AI set file cache property assisted install.
So the preference dialog is now called settings. That's a game changer.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it got changed to settings in
Windows.
OS a long time ago, and it was different on Mac and Windows, and so now it's all.
That's reason alone to upgrade right there.
There you go.
Yeah, it's still in a different place in Mac and Windows, which is annoying.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a future version.
Yeah, and this is just the release notes from Pro. Again, more on the save as XML changes for DDR. Open SSL updated.
Oh, that looks interesting. Schema changes.
More?
So I was kind of jumping ahead of the thing under the tools.
Okay.
Can now receive notification when schema changes are made.
Only on the server.
So
file.
does that mean that like if somebody goes open FileMaker server, and I'm not saying anyone should do this, but they go into a hosted file, add a field, maybe at 3 a.m., and then close it, you get a notification that a field was added. Is that a schema change?
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty cool. So that's like what do you call it? A bit of a change log kind of feature. Is that the change log? Yeah, that's
I mean, you'll get a notification.
It's like a pull request.
You'll get some components of where the change happened. It won't give you enough specifics to piece it all together, but I think
something.
It's a way to trigger, like, okay, something happened.
And then you could look at the deltas and the backups or whatever, but it looks like a step in the right direction. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Comes back to my constant complaint about these things is just sort of, you can read a paragraph like that and then you just sit there and go, why and how and what? So what do I do with that?
Well, most of these have links to, more details in the release notes. It could have been like 50 pages long, probably. So I was glad they did that, like the upgrade tool, and then it sends you a link to the upgrade tool. And so you can get more details on what changed and why. Send mail. Talking about sending, does anybody send mail anymore from FileMaker directly, or is everybody
meaning through an email client?
Is everybody now using, a provider that does email or plugin that does email?
No,
Not me.
I still use SendMail.
Yep, I still use SendMail.
I use an Apple script, which I'll post a link to, which gives me, it's FileMaker to Apple Mail. It produces HTML email from FileMaker. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
But
and that's a lot of reasons why I use a mail services. I want to have HTML email.
Yeah, and not everything has to be cloud. What if it goes down?
I used to have FileMaker write the HTML and use the web viewer to kind of preview it, and it would write it into the mail itself.
You say you do that currently?
I wrote a solution that did that at one point.
Yeah, but what it sends is not a graphic unless it's an attachment.
No, it actually wrote because we had a problem. Originally we were going to do a print to PDF thing, but then we found out PDFs, like if they go more than one page long, they won't pre-visualize in the macOS mail client.
Yeah.
So I literally wrote FileMaker code that wrote HTML and created and embedded it in the email itself, so that when it rendered in the mail client, it wouldn't break it off if it was one page.
Yeah, I'd have to see that because I've been trying that for years. You have to.
It was a fun trick.
It sends it as plain text. I don't know how it can come back as HTML.
What are we? I'm a little confused about what Kent is saying that he's doing.
Yeah.
This was like back in 2015. I'd have to go trace my memory steps, but Yeah, it worked. I may have sent it through I'm trying to think whether I sent it through the server. I know it rendered correctly in the Mac Mail client. It's funny how often I have our web developer people were asking me like, how do you send mail? Like, how do you activate this send mail client? What's the code for it? I said, oh, it's this script step in FileMaker send mail. And they're just like, we've never seen this before. How does this work? And it's like that happens when you have a native client on your Mac desktop that can talk to your Mac Mail client.
So you can, I just dropped the link to code, starting point code from Late Night Software. That's a good Apple script editor product over there, $99 last I checked. And this is what I'm using whenever I have an HTML editor, which is actually somebody sends an email, I'll send it to you. I demoed this at DIGFM. You guys heard of them? 2 years ago. Like a little HTML construction thing. And then there's this Apple script that you can find at the link I just dropped, uses AppleScript Objective-C, which is an AppleScript bridge to the underlying Objective-C language, NS this, NS that. It works, and I'm using it. I'm using a V2 on what I just dropped, and point of the story is from FileMaker to Apple Mail, build HTML structure. As Kent said, look at it in the data viewer, because you get a preview, because you can do that. Click the button, run the Apple script, opens in Apple Mail, HTML. You can do attachments as well. There's some HTML that doesn't seem to support, but anyway, I dropped a link and you all might have fun with it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. That might have been how I did it. I have to.
Apple script?
No, I actually think I generated the HTML as a file and attached it to the mail, and then it rendered in the mail client.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, send mail is just plain text. No matter how you try, you can put whatever you want in it.
If on Windows, that would be,
yeah.
if you just use that, then it's limited to this date.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed. Only the Mac Mail client, I think, rendered that correctly.
Right. Okay. Functions and calculations. Just some fixes on a couple things. Positive number was subtracted from a date or timestamp. The expected result was a negative number, but returned. I don't know what that is. Somebody else went over and tested that and talk about it. But the base 64 encode RFC function returns the value of the RFC number parameter. Again, I didn't test that one. There was a fix on the JSON functions where a key name might include a Unicode character that wouldn't be able to be rendered, and they fixed that. I don't. Again, a lot of these I didn't test tonight because I don't use them now. But you can read it. And if you do help.claris.com, it gets you the page. No, actually, I just click here. There we go. Help.claris.com is a help center. And so it gives you all of the documentation for Pro and server on this, and then some cloud and Go on the first tab. And then you've got the documentation for Claris Connect, again, linking to information, and then the Claris Studio. So I really like that they cleaned up the help. That I think that worked a lot better for what we were always trying to find something. And now they've got it in one central location. So help.claris.com comes right up. So I love it.
Do you mind if I ask a question about Ghost of Christmas Presents?
Mm-hmm.
no longer present on
Right ahead.
on features. Does anyone miss the starter designer option that I remember it was in FileMaker last year, then I don't see it anymore. It was kind of like
You
the
mean
beginner designer.
you mean the thing that you would see on Go? Like you see this kind of slide panel that walks you through Go a little bit and shows you different examples of what you could build.
It was in Pro Desktop, and it was like the starter. There was like a starter interface for designing a new app, and it
Were
looked like it was
sample
very.
files?
That was the quick start, and it was the precursor to Studio.
Really?
Yeah.
Sure
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, we come
Yeah.
up and you had that option to do quick start, and then you could start right away, and it was creating fields as you were doing it, kind of like the way you're working in Studio, but it was right in FileMaker. And then once you were done with that, it became you couldn't go back to that design
You
interface
would say like,
again.
show me
But
the advanced interface, and then once you
yeah, but it
so
was a way to design and create your schema at the same time.
that starter interface doesn't, unless I just turned it off by default. Is it still there?
No,
No, it's
they
not.
took it out.
So
Change it eventually.
I take it the point of that was to try to like, get to those. I keep bringing up, like, I like Andy with Kate's example that Airtable is really easy to start at 0 and it takes you to
Right.
20. It's tough to kind of like with FileMaker, it can take you all the way to 100, but you've got to like invest all the way to 20 to even start in it. And that maybe that was like a way to get people like the learning curve easier. I guess I take it wasn't.
Right. That's why they did it. And again, they're trying to think of ways to integrate what we've got in Studio now as an easy interface for people to create and design. And I don't know if that's something they can, bring back at some point, or if they're going to try to come up with greater ways to show what we've got in Studio views within FileMaker.
I do agree Studio is an easier sell. People will probably understand it intuitively,
Yeah.
especially since they know Airtable. But how to get them to make that leap from Studio to a full-blown FileMaker app, on their desktop is the next like learning curve jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was called the Quick Start Experience,
Yeah.
and it was officially removed in 1954.
Yes.
And it was only Mac anyway. It was never on Windows.
Right.
I had a question for the group. With all these new features coming out and the cadence of new versions shifting from, when we had 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 coming out every 18 to 22 months, and now we've got a new version coming out every 12 months, how are clients been receptive to running the process of upgrading the platform, particularly when there's a lot of moving parts? I've got data coming into one system, coming in an XML feed from HR. I have the AD data coming in from a CSV. I have vehicle information coming in from a Excel spreadsheet. I've got other data coming in by the data API from iPads, from syncing. And then I've got data going out via the data API out to an external, what we call the ACL, which then a whole lot of other systems talk to. And with all those moving parts, it's not a small project to run up the new servers, get them configured, and then making sure that we don't have the changes that we've had in the past, like when the URL syntax changed and we had to update all the paths. Has there been much resistance to that? Because there's a lot of features here that we're talking about that I just haven't got a chance to play with yet until I've got one of these clients over the line for the upgrade.
Right.
I think with the cadence of the releases, the reality is that people don't upgrade when the release comes out. I
Yeah.
think developers might upgrade, but I don't think clients upgrade. And I think it's I think from a client's point of view, you've got to stack up a critical number of advantages to upgrade and then pull the trigger and say, right, well, we're going to 21.1 or we're going to whatever we're going to
Yeah.
go to.
Especially if it becomes an operating system upgrade as well, or even hardware upgrade for people.
By the same token, I think it's not a good thing to allow a user to stay on
Oh, yeah.
19.6 forever, just because it's too hard. I think you've got to, if anyone, obviously with the deprecation of 19.6 or the removal of support for 19.6 soon, that won't stop 19.6 working. So I don't think it's a major thing for most people. But I think anyone who's still using 19.6 has got to have some pretty serious think about which version between 19.6 and 21.1 they're going to upgrade to.
Right.
So I think it behoves the developer to actually have that conversation with them and say, look, we need to upgrade. We're not going to upgrade every single little iteration that comes out every 3 months, but we do need to pick something and hang our hat on it and be able to say, right, well, we're going to upgrade to here at this point.
Right. Unless it's something really compelling that they've come out with that has been a very needed feature for your solution. Like I had a client on 17 for a long time, and it didn't make sense to upgrade until we had some of the stuff we now have in 20 and 21. And, so they've upgraded. But
Yeah, I've got a client here running 20, and we've got a few issues with memory leaks on both the live and test servers, and we've stripped it back, and we think it's one of the upgrade processes that they've post-installed on the software. So we knew we were running towards FileMaker 21 before April, and it's really been the memory leak that has pushed them to go to FileMaker 21 at this stage. But there's a lot of moving parts. And taking over a solution like this, someone else has worked on for the last couple of years. We've got JavaScript web viewers set up.
right.
That, it is right outside of the core competencies of the product that need to be double checked and tested to make sure that they're all going to work.
Right.
And I think that's something that I don't think Claris is good at it in terms of providing some sort of upgrade path for users. And I think they do heavily rely on developers, on partners and developers, professional developers, to advise clients on what they need to do next. But I find that they provide extremely little advice on, okay, I'm ready to move. What do I need to check? What do I need to do? Because they go, well, that's your problem.
And even this client here, when we started getting the memory leak, the IT guys were going, all right, we'll just install FileMaker 21 over the top of FileMaker 20. I was like, whoa, you need to slow right down. And for starters, we don't run it on the production server first. We run the whole process on new servers to see how we're going. And that's not the answer to this. And we've got a whole lot of functionality we need to test first, but they were ready just to press the button and run over the top. Thankfully, that particular individual is no longer there.
And curiously, I think if they actually ran Claris tech support and said, do you think it's okay to do that? They go, yeah, that would work.
Interesting.
Cool.
Mm.
Any other ghosts of past that people
Lem-
can think about?
I-
let me before you
do
move
have
on.
one.
Well, go please. I'm looking for a
Sorry.
script here. No, you go.
So, it may be different than what we've discussed, but I don't know if anyone recalls. It's been a while, but it used to be there was someone in the community who around April 1st would always publish, a list of features to come in an upcoming release of FileMaker, right? And the list was some items were just wild, right? And you knew that the thing was a joke, but some of the items were like making sense, where they were like things we were looking forward to and things like that. I don't know if there is some place somewhere where we still get to find that. I forget the name of who was publishing that, but does that ring a bell to anyone?
I don't remember.
Was that Mark John Osborne?
Oh yeah, maybe that sounds
I
familiar.
I think
That
it's something that he may have done.
Yeah.
No, but I talked to Angie quite a bit. And they're doing quite a few changes now on the website. It seems to be improving, and they're getting the community up to where it needed to be, years ago, and so we're kind of really happy with that. And be sure to mention on community if there's something that doesn't seem to be working. They still don't have the ideas turned back on, but that's on their plate to do. And so, but if you have feedback on it, by all means, let them know, what the problem is. I can't do the search in the Firefox browser, but I can in Safari and Edge on Windows. So you have to be really careful about what you can and can't do, I guess. They're not very big on being, supporting more than one or two browsers, which is too bad, but
I was doing some prep here to jump in on Darren's question topic. I think the trick with upgrades, managing customers is, we want to move them forward. I've always operated on the principle of like looking to where I can stick the landing. And I had this conversation recently with a customer that's got, to use Darren's phrase, a lot of moving pieces, because they got a server, they got Pro, and they got Go. And I was trying to pick a path forward for them. And they were like, okay, we want to buy some new computers. And on the Apple side, that's like an M4 chip, which requires Sequoia, which requires the version of FileMaker that came out a month ago. And, depending on your desire to move forward versus your aversion to risk, a month ago, it's not that long ago for the 21.1.1. You notice the last digit there is a .1. So, once again, I think the trick that has kind of kept me out of trouble over the years is move people forward and stick the landing, certain versions that are sweet. I want to share something with you all real quick. Nobody's sharing, so I'm just going to grab it here, screen share. Let's see, multitask. Here's I wanted to write some code to make sure that people were running a version that we'd vetted. And even though we're being recording, I'm going to say like 19.5.2 was not a particularly terrific version to run. If you recall, there was a issue that it affected something in a negative fashion, the file options. You remember that bug? It was Celant did a blog post on it. Basically, it flipped a bit on the file, and it made it you couldn't open the file without hex. They fixed it in 19.5.3. Point of the story is that every now and then, 15, 16, every now and then, there's a bad version out there. And in my opinion, higher 19.5.1 was okay. 19.5.2, it's a higher number, but it had a pretty serious little bug there. So I did an infographic about the platform to do the moving pieces, because you got a stack. You got the computer, the system version, the application, these, and then I'm just writing a code which is not done, but it's basically, okay, what platform am I on, Mac or Windows, and what is the list of versions on the Macintosh platform? This is obviously old code, but what are the versions that we've checked? Like if somebody tries to log in with, what was that evil version? Oh yeah, 19.5.2. That's straight off this line blog post. Then we quit. So, when do we quit? When do we send a help ticket to the help system saying this is okay? Like 19.6.1 might be like, okay, that's fine. Nobody's going to die if they run that, but we'd prefer they be on 19.6.3. So sometimes we were like, no, we're going to crash. Well, not crash, but we're going to quit because that could be catastrophic. Sometimes we were like, yeah, we should upgrade this when you get a chance, help ticket. Anyway, just working on that. And that's what I'm doing. It's not a complete thought, but I'm thinking about these issues too. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I don't know if that was interesting or helpful.
Oh, it is. And we had what I'm going to call a rubber chicken, that every odd version seemed to be the one for this particular client, that we went 13, 15, 17, 19. So we missed that whole 18 side of things. And, that worked for us. And it also fit in with their cadence of upgrades, that they were happy to do it every 4 years, but now we're asking it to be done every year. They start to have a little bit of pullback.
Yeah, it's harder. They tighten the delta from 2 down to 1, which makes it more challenging. We have most of our, if not all of our big customers on maintenance, so the money is being transferred. And I think I'm just going to repeat what you said a little bit. It's like not everybody's got, not everyone's super duper thrilled and excited about the time it takes to upgrade every single year. But I'm happy to see the new features that have, some of them we talked about earlier today, because then you can actually say, you upgrade and you get some nice feature. That's great.
Yeah. And then even just due diligence to find out what the site's doing. I've got one client who's serving up PDFs to the outside client base through PHP. There's a bit of a process to run the data from the database out to a PHP, then to drop the file into another directory to keep it all secure. Now, I don't know if anyone's running any FileMaker 20 or 21 sites with PHP. I have seen the new blog posts that are out there, but I'd just rather remove the requirement to have PHP there altogether.
Yeah, data API.
Straight data API. At one site, we've removed the requirement of plugins as another moving part, because a lot of the functionality now with dealing with external files can be done natively, or any sort of, used to use a base elements plugin a lot to do the HTML emails. And again, we've got more native functions to do those sorts of things. So stripping back a solution between upgrades to remove some of the moving parts does help. But yeah, having to do this every year, it takes time. You've really got to get into their capex for the year, to say, look, we need to put aside these funds every year to be doing this as part of your stability.
Yeah, Darren, we did one of those where we used the base elements plugin to do JSON and the thing that you just mentioned, and then their server, they were locked down with JSON. I mean, the good news was like we knew that no one could connect unless they were 16 and above, more 18 and 19. But at that point, we removed the base elements and made all native JSON calls and insert from URL. So it does take time, not easy.
And if you get too far behind with the upgrade cycle, then you get into this sort of, does server support this version? And I got into a situation with a client where we were upgrading them and saying, all right, so we're going to need to upgrade all the clients to this version, then we'll upgrade the server to this version, then we'll upgrade those clients to the real version. So you probably cause yourself more work, and there's a bit of from the client's point of view, there's a bit of what do they call it? Sort of false economy by not upgrading regularly than just letting it go too far, and then you're stuffed.
Yeah, that's the false economy of not making it a capital expenditure expense every year to say this is just a tax of running your business on software that's continually evolving.
Hmm.
Once you start saying,
unfortunately, it gives them the opportunity then to say, well, in that case, FileMaker's too expensive. We'll go on to something else that just upgrades itself all the time, like a web platform.
We get that all the time. The threat to rebuild and go, okay, and when are you going to do that? And what's your budget? And what is your spec? Get all that together and then come see that up until that point, I'll continue on this path until you've got something.
Yeah. One of my clients went down the Salesforce path for that, and took them 5 years, but they finally done it.
Mm-hmm. And there's probably $1 or two, a zero or two at the end of the budget.
Well, I said to him, if you had told me that you had 100 grand to throw away, I could have taken that off you.
Absolutely.
I just dropped a link from the slide post about the 19.5.2 bug, which got fixed in fully fixed in 19.5.4. Anyway, that's like my what to avoid. So yeah, you got to keep things moving forward. You got to pick your winners. You got to dodge a bullet here and there, probably like every other platform out there.
Well, Tony, what would be your take on someone actually caring about 19.5 at the moment? Because they shouldn't be using it because it's unsupported software.
Well, I'm using it as an example that, I'll put it this way: FileMaker is a terrific platform, and if you've been around, most recently, the most recent version that was didn't make people look good, didn't make the platform look good, was 19.5.2. It was sufficiently problematic that Salant did an article on how to use a hexadecimal editor to fix your file. You can read the history on that. So it's just an example of the concept that the feature that says, in the little under file options, you must be running this version or higher. That's a good feature, and it's not perfect because, just to use the same example, and I'm going back in time just to use an example that's real world, that really happened. If somebody back then was using 19.5.1 and they say, oh, 19.5.2, had they gone there without, vetting it, they would have potentially experienced the bug that Salant has documented in the blog post. So it's just an example, and it happened in 15 and 16. And 18 was pretty solid across the board, but it's just an example. It's not a recommendation that people go back to 19.5.2. As a matter of fact, the good news is once 19.6.3 shipped on the client side, I didn't have to worry about some customers sneaking in a 19.5.2. But the work I was doing recently was just to basically build into every single system the functionality whereby they can't go rogue. You know what I mean? Because I don't have absolute dictatorial control over every action by every customer. Although, of course, that would be cool. So anyway, long story short, just an example.
Yeah. And obviously there's the issue these days that a user might get a message from FileMaker Pro these days to say, oh, there's a new version, do you want to upgrade to it? And so they go, hey, better do that. And upgrade it to an unsupported version.
And I think it's also like
go
the
ahead.
iPhone, like the iPhone mentality that I get up in the morning and there's 7 upgrades to mission critical software on my iPhone. I just press the upgrade.
Yeah.
There's really nothing there that I would say, oh no, I'm going to run up another iPhone just to test that app to make sure that it's not going to cause me any grief, that I can't do my online banking or, check my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
So there's something in the happy middle of that happy medium of saying, well, yes, there's a new version, but we're not going to be on the knife on the bleeding edge. We're going to be on the sleeve of the hand holding the knife on the bleeding edge.
Mm.
Well, you have one person upgrade. Typically, you go to the someone in the IT staff. They might even have 2 computers, and you just say, we're going to upgrade one person, and we're going to poke around. But don't upgrade the whole office at once, unless you know that it's a version that's been out a while. Or it's a version that you've tested in your environment with the different, like what your PHP is or what your barcode scanning. Barcode scanning broke between 18 and 19, at least it did over here. So you want to just don't update the whole office at once.
Again, I think it comes back to it's a question of whether Claris has any responsibility for that to advise on what might break with an upgrade. And I think that they would think, no, we have absolutely zero responsibility for that. But I think they do have some duty of care in advising people on how they should upgrade and what they need to do, but they don't do anything.
Well, they provide a legal disclaimer. It's a joke, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, overall, I believe, a remarkably stable platform if you allow for the fact that every now and then there's going to be a bug. And any customer, like if we have a customer that there's like one person, I actually have one of those at least. But, the people who are mission critical with the big things with the Pro and the Mac, the Windows and the Go and this and that, those you have to tread carefully, and we will tackle them last. The more seats, I'd rather see the people with 5 seats upgrade before the people with 50 seats. I'd rather see the people who have just a single platform. Anyway, I've managed to stay out of trouble, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And once again, the greatest platform ever made. Amazing software, very complex, a lot of moving pieces.
I think obviously it's become a bit less stable since the agile sort of development methodology, but they tend to introduce more bugs than they did before. But at least now they've got the ability to fix those bugs a lot quicker than before as well, so they don't have to necessarily care as much.
Yeah. Well, I think as long as they give us a place to stick the landing, once a year would be the cadence that we would need based on the 1-year delta. There's got to be like a super duper, for my taste, there's got to be a super duper stable version once a year. And I never, ever expect the versions that end with the major minor patch, if the patch is .1, I tread carefully.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, by the way, I'll share. I made a joke for one of the other groups. We had in one of the breaks at the LA group, I said, I recommend that everyone here upgrade to the latest version the day it comes out, and let me know how it goes.
Well, somebody's got to.
Small installs first.
It has to be first.
The smaller, simpler installs, the more features that you have, the M1 chip broke something in the send mail. I had to go in and patch it with an AppleScript switch. I mean, there's going to be bugs along the way. It's a big platform. There's a huge number of, it's a big platform and it's built by human beings. I'm all in favor of them doing increasingly better. Cute dog there, by the way. Hi, dog.
He says hi.
We can park. Do you want to go to the park?
Great.
Squirrel.
And
Want some chicken?
You want some chicken?
and don't
Wait,
say
you don't
cigar-
teach this dog any words? What's going on here? Mush, mush.
pretty focused on the travel at the moment. He thinks he's pulling the car.
All right, people, I have to head out.
Hey, is this a good place to stop the recording then, I take it?
No, if I leave, the recording stops?
Um,
No, I can stop it anytime.
Hey, Vince, are you on a hard out or can I get feedback from you all? Brilliant developers. Look at this crowd here. Vince, you got a hard out or you want to see something incredibly interesting real quick?
We're dogs. That is
I'm going to share my screen here.
You're going to share
You
your dog too?
didn't tell me that you'd taken on more stuff.
Oh, I took away the dogs. There they are on the sidebar. Hey, Vince.
Yeah.
Can I, if I catch you before you go?
Yeah.
And this is for everybody in this Steam group. You all got your thinking caps on here?
Wait, are we
Okay.
Are we still recording?
I don't care.
I think.
Okay.
It's
recording.
nothing bad coming here. Okay. So true story, not a false story, but a true story so I have a customer that does a round trip between a web app. They send down a JSON package, and the requirements of the project is that I take the JSON package and I unpack it and I make a newer update. It's either, I have a script that makes a new record or an update where it does a find. Pretty straightforward stuff. Part of the requirement is that I echo data back to the web app. In other words, I send them whatever they sent me for whatever reason, I send back the same thing. That's the spec. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is like data. It's not TDD. This is DDD, documentation-driven development, because I'm not smart enough to do it any other way. It was sufficiently complicated. I'm like, how the hell does this platform work? So I said, okay, we have this thing called get element. We have this thing called set element. So this is a little JSON that I'm putting in here. So if I do get, and I pull true, it gives me 1, false gives me 0, null gives me blank, right? 1, 0, and blank. Okay, that's one direction. If I go in the opposite direction, let's see, 1 gives me true. Let me think. 0 gives me false. Empty gives me false. Okay, so that's why that's in red. So I'm not round tripping. But this is in the JSON set element, let me count 1, 2, 3. The fourth parameter is keyword. I think it's called a keyword or something like that. And JSON, Boolean, and JSON null are different. If instead of saying Boolean, I say null, then I get null. And then I'm round tripping. But I have to do either Boolean or null depending on the data. Oh, maybe it's a good thing this is recorded. We're still recorded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's complicated. So I did the mapping and I'm like, okay, and then here's my V1, which was wrong. But I would okay, if it's empty, do a null, but if it's not empty, do a bool. And I was pretty happy with myself for about a day. And then I realized that the set element, and then this was going to be a custom function with a .b indicating that I want to do Boolean round tripping or whatever. And I was happy with myself for about a day. That didn't last because I said, wait a second, the set element has, what does it have? The ability to build an entire structure, like the substitute. You know what I mean? I think I might have that there. So then I moved the custom function from the set element level down into the keyword level. And that's what's here on the lower left-hand side, which is if the value that I'm inputting, if is empty, the value, this is whole custom function, then blah, 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 JSON null. And if it's not empty, then Boolean. So it's null or empty. And that's a wrapper around this where you pass in the value. Anyway, I think I got it right. It seems to work. And I guess since it's recorded, I think it's actually the way to do round trip, because JSON, we don't have FileMaker doesn't have a null. JSON does. But anyway, I successfully round trip by doing this custom function. So I don't know if I have a question other than I hope you enjoyed that. And it seems to work. That's all. Vince, I hope you're not sad for having stayed for that. Thanks for putting on the show.
Thanks for being here.
If anyone wants to comment on that and tell me it's horrible, but that was really complicated. I shouldn't put anyone on the spot this late in the day. Although I have no idea what time it is in Australia.
It's 20 to 2 in the afternoon.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm kind of glad that was recorded. I might go back and see if it made sense. So Vince, thanks for staying. I don't want to torture anyone.
No.
Yeah, say goodbye all. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you next year.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Likewise.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye.
in the
Bye,
next
Vince.
one. Okay. Bye, everyone. Next month.
Yeah. Big show.
I think David came in. David came in, and we mentioned it before he came, and now he's gone, and he won't hear it. And he'll probably see the announcement.
Well, it's still recording. You can announce it one more time for the recording.
Okay, one more time for the recording. We'll have Heather Winkle come and talk to us, and her topic is
That should be really interesting.
Let me see if I can post it.
She has, I looked at her LinkedIn. She has a lot of interesting experience across industries.
Yeah, I mean, is she still working at?
LinkedIn. She recently is working at Delta. That said, she put in obviously Apple Claris, and then I guess once you get the design working at a particular organization, you got to jump to another one, right? She put in time at Capital One.
Oh, for a long time, 8 years after she left Claris.
That was probably a mess. Took her 8 years to clean up the act over there.
And then,
anyway, she was somewhere else, and then now she's over at Delta. So your airline is more likely to appear on time based on superior user interfaces.
Yeah, exactly. So she will be presenting next month, kicking off the other half of this decade. So
wait a second. The other half. Oh, it is the other half of this decade. That's true. And the other, and
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah.
And finishing up the first quarter of the century too.
Yeah, there you go. Oh wow, that's true too. Okay.
Oh man.
Monumental. No pressure. No pressure, Heather. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
And stop.